All right, I have the robot all set up, so let's kind of take a look at all the different options we can do with this machine. Currently I have it going into our camera over here. You can see my hand, but a little about the robot. So it has large tires in the back, and it has these tracks basically, which are great for when you're inside of a duct that has insulation. The top here has a turret which we can mount various types of whipping tools. We actually have several turrets, which you can see over here, of different sizes depending on what your application is. If we've done ducts that are 3 feet tall, we'll put in a very large turret first and whip the top section, and then we may drop down to a mid-level one like this. And then we also have an air wash system. This is one we just came up with ourselves. They have one that comes with this robot. I just didn't like it. It didn't work very well. Pieces would fall off, so we just took an air sprayer, which works amazing with 200 psi coming out of there, and we just dragged 2 hoses. Our main hose goes down here, our secondary hose here. It's clamped together with this, and then we just have a control line, and we can just plug in both at the same time or one or the other. A lot of times in these big commercial systems you get a lot of heavy debris, so we'll first whip it and then we'll go through and then just air wash everything towards our suction, which works well. Here's our control panel. As you can see, we can control the light. We have a control how much light we're going to have. This is an external lamp here. If you're not using this, which usually comes with the clamp, there is bulbs all the way around the main camera. This main camera also comes off the robot and can be used independently, which we can talk about in a sec. Here's what the controls look like. So it's a variable frequency drive. We can control how fast we're moving the robot, all the directions. This has built-in audio, so if you flip this switch on and you have your audio hooked up, you can actually narrate while you're cleaning. So you could, if you had a client that wanted to see what was going on, you could actually produce them a video. We have, so let's see if you can see this, if I can back up a little bit. We can go very, very slowly. We can crank it up, and it just turns like this. You can kind of see, you can see what it sees. Very, very controllable. As far as, we'll talk about the camera, I guess. Well, maybe we'll talk about the control line. So we have 200 feet of control line, which in most situations is going to be plenty. And then we would put 100 or 200 feet of each one of the hoses on there that would drag with. The machine is very heavy, so we've had no problem dragging 150 feet of all 3 hoses, the control line and the multiple air lines. The camera itself, like I said, comes off. A couple thumb screws and this comes off. This can be used independently as a camera. So actually here's one of the carts. You can actually affix that camera to this cart and use control rods, which we have in the Viper whip system, which you saw previously, and push this into a duct. It has a second camera lead here, which doesn't have all the control features if you're using the robot. If you're just using it as an independent camera, you can use that system. We also have invested in a spray system, which is here. So for example, these are different heights. You can take these and mount them on the robot, and they have a special tip which sprays a cone pattern. Another extremely profitable product you can offer. We've done several commercial buildings where maybe they're worried about mold, and we've applied a Foster's product. This is a drop sprayer we made. We had a multiple story structure where the returns came up. We dropped this line down with a 2000 psi airless sprayer, and then as the cone sprayed here, we just pulled it straight up and did all the drops. And then we used the robot to do all of the return lines and the supply lines. I think that job added an extra $6,000 or $8,000 to the job. So it's a very, very profitable situation. You're going to find maybe 1 or 2 of those a year, but it's worthwhile to have the investment in all the tools to do so. We have another independent camera system over there, which we'll talk about more in detail in a sec, and several little components, extra belts. As far as the monitoring system, we have a couple different types. Of this big one in a case is kind of old school. On a big jobs, I actually prefer this. All the stuff goes in there, it locks up, and you can actually make a VHS. You can buy a digital recorder for these for about $100 and do it all digitally. If you care to use the smaller monitor, it's very easy. We can simply just, if you don't want to, bear with me one second, plug it into this guy. So then you can see we're monitoring, here's my hand, on the smaller monitor, which is, depending on the situation, might be easier to bring in. But I'll put this up on the tripod so you can kind of see maybe another overview of what this guy looks like. Give it a little bit of line here. As you can see, it won't tangle itself up in the lines. But that's our overview of our robot.